This is dangerous advice. You have probably heard Abraham Lincoln's story. Never quit. His businesses failed. He lost lots of elections. He faced debt, rejection, and grief. And then after decades of setbacks, he became the president of the United States. It sounds so inspiring. Finally, it's my turn to win. But it can also be dangerous advice because following the wrong approach for 10 years, some people call it resilience, but it can also just make you 10 years older. Some people quit too early. Some of them stay loyal to what doesn't work for 10 years straight. When do you admit you have real perseverance versus you just have a failed strategy and your approach is wrong? Abraham Lincoln's story gives us the answer. But the answer isn't just keep going blindly, believing in faith only. Abraham Lincoln was like a kind of a walking contradiction. There were some things he refused to change, but then there was other things he was extremely 10 out of 10 willingness to change. And understanding the difference could save you so many years. Abraham's famous story is wrong. First, the famous Lincoln failure list is incomplete. He definitely just didn't lose 100% of everything for 30 years solid. He definitely did lose important races in his life and experienced tremendous setbacks. And he definitely struggled early on in his life. He definitely did win elections and built a respected legal brand. He served in Congress and he steadily gained influence. This correction, or more to the story, doesn't weaken it, but it reveals the real lesson. Lincoln didn't just keep losing the exact same way for 30 years consistently. He was definitely developing, and he definitely wasn't repeating the same first year experience 30 years over. This is where most people get the story wrong. They see the number of setbacks, but they miss those delicate little changes in between. This matters a tremendous amount because you may not have a discipline problem. You may work harder than everybody else that you know. You show up early, you sacrifice your weekends, you stay late. You have such perseverance. You keep trying after others have a long time ago walked away. But the secret is, just working hard doesn't mean that you're getting ahead. Discipline definitely multiplies your direction, but it doesn't create or change it. You can be amazingly consistent at an outdated way that doesn't work anymore. Look at those old super landline phones that had a cord with them. Who uses that much anymore? You can keep using the same offers and the same sales approach, posting the same content, using the exact same business models you have for 15 years, having the exact same conversation. And because you're working very hard, and you get kudos for that, but it doesn't mean that you're making progress. Motion and progress are not the same thing without even changing your location. What changed after Lincoln lost? Look at Lincoln's early life. He got involved with a store that failed and left him majorly in debt. He could have let that make him a new identity about who he was, but he didn't, and he worked hard and he studied law and he developed his ability to communicate and he entered into public life. Then he lost his first campaign in the Louisiana legislation, but he didn't just keep doing the same thing with intense enthusiasm. He definitely improved and he definitely made a lot of new friends. He learned how people made decisions, he strengthened his arguments, and he definitely won a lot more elections. Something was happening in between those losses. The setbacks weren't just testing his character. They were revealing his shortcomings, the areas where he needed to develop more. This is a fantastic way to turn such losses into wins. There's a saying that sometimes life is going to give you lemons, so turn it into lemonade. But I add to this and I say sometimes you're going to be so defeated that life is going to give you rotten lemons. And then the only thing you can do with that is take the seeds, plant it in the dirt, wait, grow it and water it and fertilize it for 10 years, and then take those lemons and force feed those people as lemons. A setback should definitely challenge your strategy, but don't question your identity. Here's two interpretations. Imagine you losing an opportunity that you felt that you absolutely deserved to win. Immediately, two explanations appear. First one says, I'm not enough. Second one says something about your preparation. Your communication, your timing, and your execution definitely needed some improvement. Do those statements sound familiar? Because they create different futures. The first one attacks your identity. The second one invites you to re-evaluate your approach. When you turn against yourself and your own identity, you stop looking and asking yourself, hey, where did I screw up and how can I do better? You may even assume that the problem is just you. But failure is an event, it's not your name. What happens in life should inform you, but not define you. I've definitely experienced this or similar to it in construction. I have spent so many years where I would be reviewing a project, measuring the work, the price on the equipment, calculated the labor, built the proposal, and I believe I should have won. Everything was, all the stars aligned. Then for whatever reason, the customer just chose somebody else. And I would text them and say, because I would think that they were like super awesome, and they just would never text back. Then the customer would just choose somebody else. And because I'd known this customer for years, I would just text them and say, hey, good luck with, your project. What did you end up choosing? Can I know the efficiency, the quality, the brand, what you paid for, what you got? And they would open the text message and then just ignore me. I bet, it was only like, say, 2 days later, they're talking about how much they like me and how much they appreciate all my work and everything we've ever done with each other. And they don't even consider other bids or nothing. And then there's the competition doing the job. And it would be very easy for me just to say with the explanation, it was all just about the price. And sometimes in life, that's definitely going to be true. But that explanation also protects me. Because if price is the only factor and I get to protect my ego, then I didn't have to examine myself for anything I might have done wrong. I wouldn't have to ask myself any tough questions like, is there something that I missed that the customer really valued? Whether I expressed the difference between the good, better, best options clearly? If I built enough trust? Whether I followed up correctly or it took too long? Or if their project was ever a good fit for me anyway. Blame can definitely protect my ego or my confidence, but it can also remove the option to have any better result for next time. The loss was expensive, and I'm definitely going to take as much advantage of that as possible and learn from it and do better next time. I'm definitely not just going to leave that lesson behind. I paid for it. This is where most motivational speeches stop working. They tell you to get up and try again every day. But trying again without doing better or learning from your mistakes is just repeating the same failure habits. So after a big setback or even a small setback, use what I call the next move test. 3 questions. First, what exactly failed? And you can't say that everything failed, and then that's just frustration talking. Was the goal wrong? Was the plan wrong? Was the timing wrong? Was the execution wrong? Did you lack necessary skills? Did you choose the wrong person? Did you stop before you gave yourself enough time? Or did you continue to keep going and going and going long after the evidence told you something was wrong? Be very specific, because vague failures create vague improvement. And you definitely can't fix everything, and that's okay. But you definitely can improve your sales presentation. You can definitely change your pricing. You can practice your new delivery. You can rebuild your offer opportunities. You can definitely stop trusting somebody who shows themselves to be unreliable. You cannot fix problems that you refuse to define. Question 2. What did it reveal? What did this reveal that I did not know before? Maybe the market doesn't want what I'm selling in its current form. Maybe the opportunity requires a skill you have not developed. Maybe your timeline was unrealistic. Maybe you're even solving a problem that nobody cares to pay for. Maybe the person you trusted was never as committed as you are. Maybe your method is working, but your expectations are making this so complicated it can only fail. Don't ask yourself immediately, how does this make me feel? Ask instead, what is obvious now that wasn't obvious before? That's where the value of this setback is hiding. But the truth might hurt your confidence for a day, but ignoring it can cost you years. Question 3. What changes now? Not next month, not after you feel motivated again. What happens within the next 30 hours? What email gets sent? What conversation gets scheduled? What skill gets practiced? What offer gets written? What expense out of your current books gets eliminated? What bad habit is going to stop? What decision have you been postponing? Because then you would have to face yourself and admit that your old approach isn't working. Your next action doesn't need to be transform your whole life. It needs to prove that the lesson has improved your behavior. A lesson that taught you nothing changes nothing. Name it, learn from it, move on. But what if you should quit? If you still got problems, you can analyze it. And you definitely always have the choice to change or improve something. You can take another step and still keep moving in the wrong direction. So does resilience mean you should ever walk away? No. Sometimes quitting is the most resilient and wisest thing that you can do. I understand when it's your baby and you've got such tremendous amount of years and money of sunk cost, it can be extremely difficult. But sometimes you got to quit a strategy that over and over and over and over and over again proves that is a failure and losing strategy. You got to have proof of concept. Prove that it works. Prove that it's making money for other people. Prove that the competition is doing well. You should quit protecting a decision only with the thought, I've just got so many years invested. But this raises the real question. When should you let go and when should you refuse to surrender? This is the fantastic answer of Abraham Lincoln's story for this video. And one of his most important losses makes the answer clear. Lincoln lost in the Senate in 1858. During that race, Lincoln attracted a lot of attention past Louisiana. His arguments reached a national audience. His reputation grew and his thinking became a lot wiser and more popular. But the position that he wanted was gone. But this experience had prepared him for a bigger opportunity. 2 years later, he became the president of the United States. He still lost the Senate, but he did not lose what the loss had built for him. Successful people don't pretend that losses feel good. They ask, what can I take from this loss and then turn to my benefit to help me carry forward? Sometimes the opportunity that you wanted is not the opportunity that the loss was preparing you for. So this is what Lincoln was willing to change. He protected the mission without protecting the method. Just like in construction, you got A to Z, and sometimes you got to go boom. It's not a straight line. The larger purpose is still there and still gets accomplished, but you have a bit of a evolution in between. His role definitely changed. His strategy definitely changed. His arguments definitely became stronger. His audience definitely became larger. His ability caught up with his ambition. Lincoln didn't succeed because he decided to quit everything. He succeeded because he knew what not to quit. That is the difference between resilience and stubbornness. Stubborn people protect their approach. Resilient people protect their purpose. Stubbornness says, my way has to work because I have to be right. But resilience says, this matters enough for me to find another way to make it work. You don't always need a new dream, but you must be honest enough with yourself to consider another strategy. Think about the setbacks that you are facing right now. Do not only ask yourself one question, should I keep going? Ask instead, what exactly failed? What did it reveal? What changes now? Then ask the hardest question. Am I protecting the purpose or am I protecting my pride? Because a loss isn't permanent when it happens. A loss becomes permanent when it starts making your decisions. Keep what still deserves your commitment. Let go of what the evidence shows is just failing. Take the lesson, make the adjustment, then write the next success line in your life. Write in the comments, what are the challenges that you're facing right now and how are you going to overcome them? If this video gave you value, share it with your friends so it can help them too. And subscribe. Out there in the world, we are just a bunch of just ordinary people and we are building extraordinary lives.